Hello guys, and welcome to another tutorial video by Mr. Malaji TE. In today's video we'll be dealing with adjusting journal entries, or how to prepare adjusting journal entries on Pastel version 18. So on our last video we dealt with adjusting journal entries, but we only dealt with 2 points, which is paid cleaning material and bought new motor vehicle. So we first started by creating or recording these transactions, the two transactions, and then doing their adjusting journal entries, which are cleaning materials on hand and the depreciation adjusting journal entry. So for this video we'll be dealing with the monthly rent, bullet number 4 and bullet number 5, since on the last video we did not do them. So if you didn't see my other video preparing the first bullet for paid cleaning materials and bought new motor vehicle, you can just search in my YouTube channel and look for that video. So now we'll be dealing with paid 1000 monthly rent from May to February and received 486, and we'll deal with the adjusting journal entries, which is the rent expense paid in April was for an advance, water and electricity for March 17 and was outstanding, and again we will deal with this adjusting journal entries. The balance received from University of South was overstated. The cost of the vehicle bought was overstated. So let's go ahead and prepare and process these two transactions here. As we know that before you can prepare or process adjusting journal entries, you have to process first their transactions prior to preparing or processing the adjusting journal entries. So let's go ahead and process the monthly rent. So we are told that they paid monthly rent of 1000 from May to February and paid 3000 in March. So we'll process that in the cash book, since we are told that they paid, right? So we'll go to we'll process that on a company, on this company Polo. So we'll go to process cash book, since it's a payment. We paid our monthly rents from May to April, from May to March, so we have to process from May. So we'll process monthly rent for 12 periods from May to March, and for April for the next financial year, for May next financial year, because we are told that the 3000 relates to April and May that is paid in advance. So we'll just start by processing those monthly rents. So on GCS we know that is a general ledger account, customer and supplier. So our rent, it's a general ledger account. So we'll search for rent paid. Our reference, we were not given a reference, so we can just skip. And on tax, let's just go ahead and see if we were told that the tax was, so they did not tell us anything about tax, and we know that we were told that we have to ignore VAT unless otherwise it is stated. So we can just ignore it in this case because it wasn't stated anyway. Then on tax we'll just leave 00, and then on bank inclusive we paid 1000. It's 1000. Then type 2 on the account is 4,003. The amount is 1,000. Period 3. Just type 4.3. This account, remember, is a rent paid. So to save time, you don't have to click on search. You can just type 4.3, and the amount is 1,000. Period 4. 4.3. The bank inclusive 1,000. Period 5. The account, the amount. Period 6. The amount. Then period 7. So since they paid those 1,000 until February, and in March they paid 3,000, so on period 11 we'll jot 3,000, because it's March. Then we'll just, on the amount will be 3,000 and not the 1,000. Then you can just go ahead and update after that. Update. Then we'll go to our last transaction. We were told that we received 486,400 from University of South on 30 June 2017. So we'll process our cash book. It's a receipt. So we were not told anything about VAT, so we'll ignore it. We received the amount on June 2017. So here's June 2017. The account is C from the customer. Then we select that customer, University of South, enter. Then on reference and description you can just leave that. On bank amount is 486,400. It's 486,400. Then you can move to the next line and update the receipts. Therefore, and after processing that journal, we'll now go to our adjusting journal entries and process our adjusting journal entries. So remember, the cleaning materials on hand, we processed that in our previous video, and the depreciations for the 12th period, we processed that in our previous video. So you can check that video if you didn't see it. Then now we'll go to the rent expense, the bullet number 3, to adjust for this transaction. We have to adjust because they paid the amount in advance. Therefore, we'll go to what we have to adjust is the 2,000 that were paid in advance. They paid 3,000 in March, so we have to adjust from March that two amounts, right? So we'll go to Pastel, then we'll adjust that in our general journal. So we'll go to general journal. On period, we'll select March because they paid that 3,000 in March. And you don't have to go to settings and click text processing because we are not told anything about text, so we ignore it. Then on date, okay, it's March 2018. The account, it's rent paid. And remember guys, on this one we'll have two accounts, right? The account that will be debited and the account that will be credited. So for a prepayment or for expenses paid in advance, right, we'll have our prepayments, right, or expenses paid in advance as our asset, current asset, right? And we'll have our account as income, the rent as income. So since we started with the rent, the rent will be the expense. Since we started with the rent expense, we'll credit it with 1,000. Then we are adjusting this amount for April. Remember, they paid the amount in March for April, right? So we will adjust those amounts. Then on contra account, we have to search for prepayments. Then after searching for prepayments, we can now update. So this one will update it using automatical reverse journal. Why? Because the amount was paid, or the amount will be, it's for this year. It was paid for in advance, but the amount is for this year, so it has to be automatically reversed so that next year will be automatically jotted in. Therefore, we'll click on automatically reverse journal and update. Therefore, we'll have to come again, and in the period March they paid 3,000. Now we have reversed only 1,000. We have to reverse another 1,000. That is for May, and May is in the next financial period, right? So we'll have to adjust that. We search for rent paid, and reference description we skip. The amount is debited. The expense, we create the expense for 1,000 since our income, or the expense paid in advance will be an asset, so it will be debited. So the expense account is credited with 1,000, and the contra account, which is the prepayment is an asset and it will be debited when the expense is credited, right? I hope you get that. So for this one, we won't use automatically reverse because it will be manually reversed in the next financial year. So we don't click on automatically reverse, we just update. Therefore, after that, we can just close and process another transaction, adjusting entry for water and electricity. We are told that water and electricity for March 2017 and April 2018. So we have to, there's a mistake there, guys. On March 17, that 17 has to be March 18, and April 18 was outstanding for 2,850 inclusive of VAT monthly. Since March, water and electricity will and then we are told that water and electricity will be paid on the month after the month the electricity is due. So if the electricity account is due on March, it will be paid on April. If it's due on April, it will be paid on May. I hope we get that. So we'll go to Pastel and process those accruals. We'll go to process journals. So in this case, those are the accrued expenses. So we'll not process them under general journal, but we'll process them under accruals. Then, since we are told that the amount is inclusive of VAT, we are told that the amount is inclusive of VAT, we'll tick text processing. We'll first go to settings and tick text processing. Then on period, we have March. We first have to process for March, because we are told that this will be paid on April, and for April will be paid on May. Therefore, the account is electricity and water. The tax standard rated, amount 2,850. Then on D and C, since we started with water and electricity and expense, so we'll select D. And we'll have now our accrued expense will be credited as a liability, as the current liability. So we'll select our we have to select on contra account. We'll have our accrued expense, right? So since there is no accrued expense there, we'll have to create or add that accrued expense account. Therefore, the main account I can just select any account tab, and the description, it's accrued expense. Therefore, it's a balance sheet item and under other current assets. So I save. Then for this one, I will click on automatic. I will update with automatically reverse journal, because the amount will be paid in within the current financial year, and I will process now the amount that will be paid in March, that is the April water and electricity. So we have water, electricity, and water. Then reference, we can just skip description, skip. VAT standard rated, it's our tax. Then on inclusive is 2850. Then D&C, remember, it's our debit and credit. So if we debit the expense, we'll have to credit our liability. Therefore on D&C it is D, because we started with accrued expense, and vice versa is correct, guys, because if you start with an accrued expense here, it will be a liability, and on D&C we'll have to select C. But in this case, we started with an expense, we'll select D. Then on contra account, it's our accrued expense. Therefore we'll update. For this one, we will not click on automatically reverse journal, because the amount will be paid in the next financial year, so it will be manually reversed in the next financial year. Then our next adjusting entry, we are told that the balance received from University of South was overstated as it exceeded the outstanding balance owed to Polokwane retailers. So we'll go to Pastel and check how much we overpaid. The amount we overpaid by the University of South. So we'll go to we'll close that, and then we'll go to edit, supplier accounts, then we'll search. Since University of South is a customer, not supplier, we should have selected edit customers accounts, not supplier accounts. Therefore we'll go to balances. Then we can see that the balance is negative 1.8, or you can just look for the balance that is overpaid on this screen, on Explorer screen. So the balance is this one, the negative 1.8. This negative 1.8, it shows that we have overpaid this they have overpaid this account with 1.8. So that means us, the Polo have received the amount overstated with negative 1.8. So we'll go to process. Since when we processed there is the amount received, we processed it in the receipt side. Now we'll have to process that 1.8 in the payment side to reverse that receipt. Therefore we'll go to our period, is the year end. Then our account, since the account is the customer, and we have to reverse it in the payments, and we know that in the payments we'll only have general ledger accounts, and the supplier accounts, because we can't pay the customer will only pay us, and that hence it is only in the receipt side where C is available. But in this case, since we have to reverse it in the payments, we'll have to go to setup first, setup, entry types, so that we can influence our cash book so that it will reflect the customer in the payment side, right? So that the customer will be reflected in the payment side. We'll go to setup. Let's just close that there. We'll go to setup, entry types. Therefore, we have to change the cash book, payments, the account access. We'll have to change it to any account so that it can reflect the customers in the payment side. So we can now process our cash book. Therefore, the period is 12. Okay, the period is fine. The GCS, we'll have to select the customer. Now you can see now that the customer now appears in the payment side. Then account is the University of South, right? Then the reference we can skip. The bank amount was, so we have to firstly go and check that was the account influenced by VAT or what. So we were told that we received this amount from University of South, and we were not told anything about VAT, so we'll have to ignore VAT. So the amount is 1.8. Then we can update the payments batch. Therefore we can close. So for today's video, we'll stop it here and tune in our next video where we will be dealing with this. We'll be dealing with bullet number 5, where we are told that the cost of the vehicle bought was overstated by 28,500, because on this one we'll have to reverse that cost. This one of they bought a new vehicle at 199,500, so we'll have to reverse this transaction with the amount overstated of 28,500, and we'll have again to reverse those depreciation journals that we have processed in the previous video. Therefore it will be a sole video where we'll be dealing with how to process the overstated cost of the vehicle and how to reverse that depreciation. So you can just click on the subscribe button below, and so that you will be notified of that video when it is available in the YouTube.